some really cool shit for Austin, Texas, and a really beautiful side of the scene. So anyway, I'm excited to have this conversation.
Appreciate that. Yeah, my name is Aly Gomaa. I am the festival coordinator at Resound Presents and for Levitation. I co-produce Levitation and Austin Psych Fest with Rob and Graham. And yeah, that's all I got.
Love it, love it. And before you were doing this, you were booking Hole in the Wall and a couple of smaller things. And what were you
Oh
doing
yeah.
before this?
Yeah, no, I started as booking. That's where we met, I think, is like, back then it was like booking Hole in the Wall for a little bit. I was on the team booking Mohawk for a little bit, and just the Resound team booking all of the Resound shows with all the talent buyers there. And yeah, pretty much strictly festivals now, which is it's kind of its own animal, but feels pretty good.
And we're filming this, I think, right after Levitation happened, right? Like what, how was it?
It was great. Learned a lot for sure. It's like it's 35 shows in 4 days, so it's a bit of a gauntlet. You definitely get to like, you're touching with a lot of people like real quick, like, hey, what's up? Good to see ya. Um, but yeah, no, it was a great festival. I think we really got like, we kind of the goal is always to showcase really good talent that's diverse, that is, and that's like sonically, culturally, and I think intergenerationally too, we got something really special this year because
Cool.
I feel like we kind of, we went for a big, um, we cast a big net on a lot of it, and I think we got like really good results. Like I'm really happy with what ended up turning out. It meant a lot to a lot of people. So that's
Amazing. Amazing. I'm like tempted to just jump in and ask you all the cool stuff about levitation. I guess one question about it specifically, how do y'all source talent? Like who comes up with the ideas for who you want to book? I mean, it's such a fun niche and genre. I mean, I know Levitation from the first year of it going from Psych Fest to Levitation. I was at the last festival at the park, and at that moment it was like psychedelic rock. Though I personally observed a lot of kind of like expansion in the genres. Would you say psychedelic rock is still the builder stone, or do you go outside of it? And are y'all just like kind of keeping track of all the best psychedelic rock bands? Like how does this whole thing happen?
for sure. I think for sure we do, because like that's what a lot of us are like. It's what we listen to. Like but Levitation and now Psych Fest sort of serve different purposes for, I think, for psychedelic music in general, because like Psych Fest is like pretty much as like psychedelic rock as it gets. Like that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the best psych bands and stick within that as much as we can, as to honor like the original kind of vision of like, what Robin, the Black Angels were like putting together back then. But Levitation eventually kind of shifted, as you had witnessed, and a lot of people like hadn't noticed, is like it kind of shifted into like not just being like psychedelic rock, but it was like sort of like an expansion of alternative music in a lot of ways, in different genres. Anything that's like weird or experimental for its genre and is like, it's like, oh, that's actually really good. It's like whatever it is, even if it's not like a genre that you're accustomed to, that's kind of what we want to put on. And I feel like this year we really got to do that in like the respective genres, whether it's like psych rock or post punk or like a lot of like Latin psych, a lot of like more experimental ambient stuff. So it's like
Mm,
it's
mm.
all, it's whatever's good, and it's genre.
Who did you have in the Latin psych realm?
We had Los Espiritus, which was really cool. Like they kind of like mix a lot of different genres, and they have like a lot of flavors of psych there. Girl Ultra is not necessarily like psych, but they also like kind of fall in there. We had and we had like other bands that were just like, from all around the world, like in terms of psych. And that's, I feel like, as a fan of the festival, like that's one of the first things that caught my eye. I was like, look at all of these bands that you wouldn't just see on a given night in Austin, Texas, even during South by, like you wouldn't necessarily get a chance to see all that like like close together. So I feel like, the things that drew me into the festival to begin with as a customer are now the things that I'm trying to work on with.
Yeah, keep that magic alive.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
it's done a lot, I think, for like, it's like it means a lot to a lot of people. So
Yeah, for sure. It means a lot to me, no question. I got my first spiritualized experience at Levitation the last year that I was in the park, and had no idea what I was walking into whatsoever. And getting surprised so profoundly by a band really just has been seared in my memory. It's not the first time it's happened, but when it does happen, it's quite magical, and I feel like that's a huge part of Levitation is having 20 of those experiences. Yeah.
yeah, no.
What was the big ones for you this year?
I mean, for me, it was Slow Dive for sure. Like,
Oh,
that's, I mean, it's crazy. Like, as a teenager, the band that you listen to or watch these documentaries and stuff, like not knowing that you would end up like having a career in music at all. Like, I went to film school, so
mm.
I was like, oh damn. I was like that Sunday, I was like, oh, this is. I was like the whole time I was like, ah, this is happening. And then after it, I was like, what? Wait, that happened? So it was really cool. I mean, it's just like
Where'd they play?
we played it far out.
Mm.
But the
Great
cool,
venue.
yeah, I mean, they came back. They played, I think, this April or this May, and then they came back to play Levitation just like 6 months later. Showed us really well, and we knew it would I think part of it was like the bill was like built around bands that were just generally a little bit more rare in shoegaze. So it made it that much more special. Besides the fact that like you have one of the best shoegaze bands ever like playing festival. Who very thankful for.
Yeah. Remind me, is it primarily at Far Out or is it at other venues as well?
Yeah, so it's Psych Fest is just at Far Out for the most
Hmm.
part, like an after show or here and there, and like we have after shows as well. But Levitation is, and this is like kind of the big shift, is like it is like a venue based format.
Yeah.
We're doing like 7 shows average a night at different
Oh,
venues.
wow. Wow.
So
7 different venues a night. Holy moly.
that's why it's like kind of a crazy, insane thing because
Mm.
it's like there's a lot of it. It's very spanning, so it's like a lot of there's definitely a lot of stuff that's going on like simultaneously, and it's like trying to get it to all like work out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's a interesting kind of thing that you and I are used to living in Austin, Texas, just having a festival at different venues, but not every city has like a Red River or an ability to have that kind of format. But yeah, that was a whole. I feel like we should talk about that for a second. Like Levitation was at a park, and then um, really, I mean, the way that I saw, I guess I'll speak for myself. Like I saw it as like a financially unbelievable opportunity to make things more affordable, just to do it at the venues because you don't have to rebuild the stages, and you can still have an amazing experience. And everyone's even in the same community at Red River. The park will always be so special, but there is all these expenses of like, you know, building up a venue overnight and tearing it down overnight. So anyway, but Far Out's a cool venue that lets you have like a festival experience inside of a venue. But I do think this is something that we're particularly privileged with being in Austin, Texas. There's other cities where you can pull it off too, but South by kind of invented that format, and it's cool to see y'all stick with that. And it's not, could you talk about that experience, and is that an ongoing decision or an ongoing discussion? And yeah.
well, it's I have a few things to say about it because I mean, kind of news here. It was like kind of an open secret, but now it's like kind of known. Um, or at least like, now we're making it like public. It's like basically we're not gonna do the venue based format, even though like we love it, right? But really for the reasons that you when you are able to kind of keep everything in one space, it is a lot more manageable
Hmm.
and you're able to sort of like use your resources, like especially for a team that's like you got like you only have so many people working on this thing, it's like
Hmm.
we have a great team, but like you 7 shows a night for format
Yeah,
can
yeah.
be a little taxing.
So wait, are you saying you're going back to a park format?
Not a park format, but
Okay.
we're in an indoor space. We're doing like a 6,000 cap, and that's levitation.
Really?
So it's gonna
Love
be
it.
so
Yeah,
we're
go ahead.
excited. But it's also like, how do you honor the venue based format? Because that's something that like essentially came out of a necessity that year 2016, and it basically stuck for a few for a little bit, and is like so many people's like kind of intro to levitation. It was my intro to levitation. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I don't have to be in a park. Like I don't enjoy park
Uh,
fest
oh,
necessarily.
we should say it. I'm just flashing back now. It wasn't supposed to be at venues. That's right. There was inclement weather, and it basically, like, all these bands had already flown to town, and the festival was a no-go. So shows just kind of like venues just made a heroic effort to clear the calendar, and like, that's right? Like, it just all basically out of necessity. There was like a 3-day scramble, right, to reschedule that whole event throughout
Totally.
Austin.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because it's like still remembered. I was talking to, some of the folks in Slow Dive about like that 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 scramble. And I wasn't there back then, but they were telling me that like Anton Newcomb from Brian Jonestown Massacre, I don't know why I blanked like that. He was
Happens to
the
be all-
yeah, I mean, great band, like, but they really pushed Anton really pushed to make that show happen with Slow Dive, and the reschedule of it. And I hear stories about like Rob Graham like sitting in a production trailer just like clearing calendars and stuff. But it was this moment where like it came out of a necessity. And
and then it was kind of like, hey, maybe this format's actually not so bad. And 7 years later, you're still with sticking with that format. Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's like, in a way, like it's not essentially like the more like there's so much more work that goes into like doing a 3,000 cap show or something like, something like on that a headliner sort of level show at Levitation. So it's like you're doing you're trying to make sure that you're doing a good job with that, but you also
Hmm.
have shows that need just as much effort, and you need to do just as good of a job at, and like have, just do everything that you can to make sure that like the artists everywhere are playing all of those different venues and coordinating with the venues and making sure that all of that. So it turns into a bit of a, like, you're just essentially like you have a lot um to do. And if you have
Yeah.
one, you're only having that production conversation once. You're only
No,
having
100%. It's funny because it's like you can see pros and cons to both sides, right? Because on one ways you could say go in the venue, simplify things like purely from like the build out perspective, but then the night of it's like absolutely crazy. But by the way, I think you and I have talked about this. I did a festival for 4 years in Austin, and that was the format. It was at venues around the city, and we also had a park element. So I guess we made it extra hard on ourselves. But yeah, and when you're just in one place, there's a level of like artistic creation you can put on it as well, and controlling the experience that I think is obviously ideal. Are you talking openly about what the space is that you're gonna do it at?
yeah, we're actually doing it at the Palmer Event Center, which is
Cool.
a cool nod to, Fun Fest, because that's like right across, I mean, it's the same plot of land, it's just inside. um you know
That's really interesting. Yeah.
it's really exciting, because Robin Graham partnering to work on this festival together between both companies is like, honestly, it's really a privilege for me to kind of sit and watch them work, and like, be able to like work with them and make decisions with them, and produce the festival with them, because like they both come from like really different, not super different, but like they come from like their own, like, fun on Graham's side, Levitation, Psych Fest on Rob's side.
Hmm.
It's like now there's this partnership, and it's very special. It's like,
I love that. I mean, when you were talking about levitation, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Like, it sounds like it's going more of like a fun fest experience. I also did attend the one year that they had Sound on Sound. Did you go to that? That
I
was epic. There's a dragon stage.
told like crazy stories about it. It sounds like pretty fun from what I hear.
Yeah. Once again, I think it was just out of necessity. The city of Austin like really cracked down on festivals at the time, and they had to find. And I know there was, I don't know, stuff that happened with Transmission Presents at the time, and it showed up, I think, just outside of the city for competitive reasons, at the Ren Fair. It was, and they like really played into the Ren Fair vibes. I loved it. I'm just getting a tea delivery. Going back to the Palmer Center, why indoor instead of outdoor? Is that just purely because of inclement weather?
I mean, you already know.
That's it. There you go.
It's just like, weather cancellations are pretty gnarly in general. Like so much gets derailed, and like I think Rob and Graham both have had a lot of unfortunate experiences dealing with that, especially the 2016 kind of scenario where you force the festival essentially to move into a different format for a little bit just to kind of be able to mitigate some of those risks. But yeah, I mean, I think besides that, you're also getting the fact, you touched on this, having the ability to control a space, having the ability to keep everything
Hmm.
here, having one conversation about every major aspect of the festival once, rather than having it with every venue that you're booking. Um,
Is there a amen? I mean, on one side, I can imagine a profound simplification of factors in going inside compared to outside, but is has that been a bit of a conversation around, kind of the vibe of like being in an open air space versus being indoor, and is this kind of a trade-off situation, or maybe there's perks to being inside too? And I'm just kind of curious how you all thought it through.
I think we're really trying to focus on the perks of being inside, meaning that like, you have like a pretty much like blank canvas
Yeah.
of what you're able to do with that space. Cause like if you've ever been there, it's essentially a very large and open room where they
Hmm.
convention, the record convention there. They have the tattoo invitational there. But it's a massive room. It's essentially like there's so much that you can do with the space to build out something that's experiential, that is immersive, and that like kind of fits the whole theme of like
Cool.
the psychedelic music festival. So you're there, I don't want to give too much away, but like, you can definitely like,
Art and lounges and
yeah, all the, everything that needs to happen. Because I think also a big part of it is like that you're essentially asking people to leap of faith a little bit. It's like, hey, here's something new that you're, as a fan of this festival, we're asking you to sort of like kind of forget what you know for a little bit, or like at least like kind of amend it, because we're still going to be doing other, shows at like after shows at the venues and stuff. But guess what? Like we have this new space and we have this new experience for you. And if you trust that we have given you a good time before, like here's our new baby, or like here's the new um version of this, the new form of it.
awesome. Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think there's the distinction of like indoor, outdoor, but then the distinction of like having a central place versus not a central place. And I will say, just even as a consumer, I mean, I've end up like sometimes it's kind of like, all right, do I buy a show for the festival? Like, Psych Fest, I thought that was awesome. That was only at Far Out because I didn't have to choose. And choice alone could make people walk away from going to Psych Fest, or Levitation, excuse me. And just, is that another part of the thinking? Is just, if you just, it simplifies it, just even for the end consumer, it's like, all right, you show up, you just got to find parking outside of, the Palmer, and that's it, as opposed to choosing which your night and both buying multiple nights or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. It's like you have a central location. To most people who live in Austin, it's like right downtown, and where affordability it was a massive conversation, and like you see the
Mm,
it's,
I love that.
you see a lot of festivals right now are kind of struggling to make it happen, largely because like one, you have like price sensitive customers, and you also have just kind of like for independents, like sometimes a pretty hostile market, or some conditions that aren't perfect, for you to be able to like really, you have a lot going against you if you're
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I mean, in Austin, how many festivals have we seen alone bite the dust? I mean, when came into town, it was like, I guess I don't have to name them, but there was a lot, right? And it's many enter, few leave for sure. I see it over and over again just from my purview. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Like that's I think that was like mainly the driving factor for Rob is like you're talking about you're and it's a conversation that we had a lot. I was like, okay, so we have an opportunity here to make this thing instead of you having to go spend all in all with fees and stuff, you're going to spend $300 on these tickets that you want to see. We have this one solution for you. Like it is a package. I think overall, like you get better like worth out of it for a lot of it's like a win-win situation for a lot of people, like not just like win-win, but it's like a win-win-win-win kind of scenario because the artists are gonna be in the big space. Like, there's not gonna be the actual like the potential fluctuation of like, did this show do fine? It's like if the festival did fine, you had people watching you, and because like 6,000 like cap as a target is like not out of like it's not like you're not trying to fill like a 30,000 person space. Like
Hmm.
it's challenging to try to work something out where people will, you know, you can put something in a 6,000 space cap space and have it like completely pack out.
Yeah.
Uh, that's
I
kind of
understand.
that's kind of the goal is like we're trying to like really emphasize like the best acts that we can put in there, like the acts that we really believe in and really like
I love it.
hone in on it, and
What one stage or multiple stages or?
2 stages.
Oh, two stages. Okay. Interesting. I've been in there before. Where approximately, where's the second stage? I know the first one is kind of where you see orchestras and stuff.
So like, yeah, so it's like the main space, like the 6,000 cap room. And then there's like these flanks, like these like vaulted kind of like ceilings outside where it's like
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah. So it's like one of those corners is going to have a stage in it,
Oh,
inside and
like
outside.
a boom room or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be like a semi outdoor covered stage, but it's like,
Oh, cool.
essentially like open air, but you're completely covered. So even if you have any kind of, you're still gonna be fine, like you can still have the show go on.
Man, I had going into this call, I did not know y'all were doing this. This is, I think, really interesting and really creative. I've been to the Palm before. I'd never considered throwing a festival there. And now that you're saying it, it's like, it's a really interesting idea for sure.
I think it's going to be a challenge to fit it to what we do, like because that's always a challenge to go to a new space. But
Yeah.
very excited about it. Like I'm very like I want to see what we can like. It's an opportunity to like innovate something new and like
Yeah, my good idea, spidey sense, if you will, is like spiking right now for whatever that's worth. Um, you might take that as a bad thing for the record. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
definitely
Do you
one
have
of the
any? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
definitely one of the foremost like ideas guys that I know. So
Mm.
that's a compliment actually. I really
Oh, dude, thank you. Thank you for patting my ego. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate that a lot. Is there an example of this? Like, has anyone done anything like this that you could learn
uh,
from? Or yeah,
I
it seems like a pretty novel idea. Yeah,
I'm personally not aware of like a lot of like indoor like multi-thousand cap situations. Like I know the venue format and I know the field, and that's kind of like I don't I'm personally not like fully. But and I know that there's like outdoor spaces that aren't necessarily like you could do an event, you could do a parking lot, you could do like those kinds of spaces. But I think that it's on the newer side for sure. Like I don't know if we're like the first to do it, but I think we're definitely like would be one of a few that are
yeah,
doing it.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. Man, super, super interesting. I want to talk about booking it for a second. And we did earlier on, but if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and say I'm going to ask questions as if I'm like a third grader, if you will. I think some fun responses can come from that. Let's say, you leave this interview or the podcast, you pull up your phone on Instagram, the algorithm feeds you a band you really fucking dig. And you personally, you go down a rabbit hole and you're like, man, this band's cool. Is that does that go into like a folder of potential bands you could then book for Psych Fest? Or you just always kind of jotting down ideas? Like, do they come to you? Like, is it a mixture? Like,
It's a little bit of everything, right? Because it's like, I've been doing this for like the last 3 years. So, there's a repertoire of people that I work with, agents that will pitch stuff to us. But for me, like, yeah, there's definitely a band that will come on like an algorithm that I'm gonna be like, what is this? And this is kind of a work-life balance thing that I need to get better at. But I'll go right away. I'll be like, I'll do my whole like calculation like very quickly. And there's a band like that actually. It's really funny. First thing that I did was like, Rob, let's do this one. This one's really good. You should listen to this one. And we know the agent and we work with them and stuff. But I was like, as soon as I became aware of them, I was like, this is really friendly to what we do, and this is a band that we want to support. You know,
mm,
what they're doing. Like, I'll do my cursory read of. So it's a mixture of things, or like, you become aware of a band and you kind of like, you want to know, is it real? You know,
hmm
is this really, is this something that I like, or is it something that a lot of people are going to enjoy as well? Like, cause you can't just be booking based off of like, I'd be booking bands that nobody wants to come out and see. Like if I'm just like, there's a lot of bands that I personally like that I have to kind of turn off my record store
dude,
mind.
that's a really fascinating point, and I hear this said a lot by talent buyers. But isn't a portion of what you do being a tastemaker?
I think so. I mean, especially if you're in a festival capacity, I think the only reason that like, one of the major reasons really that both Rob and Graham are as respect, like, and I see this like, it's not just to kind of credit where it's due, is like, I think that they're very widely respected people in the industry,
Definitely.
especially by the people that they work with. And it's, I think, largely due to the fact that they have very strong vision for what they do. Like, I mean, both, Rob built a very strong festival based off of like good curation and like, kind of like having a strong idea of like what bands he wants to platform. And same with Graham, with Fun and
No,
with all.
no doubt, no doubt. Yeah,
They just announced this holiday. I don't know if you saw it, holiday hootenanny. They're doing it at Radio East, which is very exciting because like Radio East is sort of unveiling this like larger stage.
yeah, yeah. Pretty awesome.
Danny Brown is playing, and Water from Your Eyes and a few others. But like that was Graham and Andrew from Resound working on it with Punagana, who did a lot of shows at Radio East for a series. So it's like that, it's like you want to always like put forward your curatorial mind, because that's what, for a boutique festival that's working with a lot of boutique agencies booking kind of boutique bands, is like that's your saving grace. Like that's what people care about. You're
hmm
this massive festival that's like sort of like casting the widest net that you can. You want to find your people and give them what they need, in order
Yeah.
to have that experience.
Oh man, we touched on something that I would like to go back to, and I'm thinking back to a conversation we had, and it was in the same conversation. I was like, dude, you got to come on my pod and share your wisdom with the world. But we were talking about just this living in this algorithm era, and you and I touched base on it a little bit, and I thought you had a really interesting perspective slash reflection on what it's been like, the ways that it's won for you massively, the ways that it's you can't just trust it fully, and yeah, it just booking bands in the algorithm era. Go.
I know it's funny because like, I thought about it a lot, and I thought about like what data projects I kind of want to do to see what, if what I was saying like really held any water. But in a nutshell, I guess the idea here is like, yeah, I mean, not every band that streams is going to sell tickets for sure. It's kind of hard to find out how that works. Like you need to be a little bit more discerning, because you can always look at a chart and be like, oh, they have consistently grown in Austin, but what does that mean for me? Like, what does that mean for like, not only what does it mean for,
100%.
but like for my audience, like for the people that I know how to talk to, is this going to matter? Is this going to be real? and what is the, what is the circumstance? Is it a headline? Is it a soft ticket, et cetera, et cetera? So there's always a play, one way or another. Your job is to find a solution to kind of get the band in the best place they can be, regardless of where they're at in their career growth. Because I feel like going back to like the hole in the wall conversation, is like that was all that I cared to do, is to develop bands to a place where they can play a festival. And for me, that's like happening right now. So that's the biggest thing, is like, it's sort of like figuring out what, it's not like it's not a combative thing. It's more of like,
Hmm.
how can we help this band where they are, especially if it's like initially it seems like the conversation isn't like you're asking me for too much money, or like, you're
Yeah.
asking,
Yeah.
no, I want to have like the best conversation that I can with you, because it matters to me almost just as it does to you that this band is able to grow in Austin. Because like, what are like, who are we, like, if nobody's going to be at the show, then who are we doing this for? Like, we want people.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Um, so
Yeah. I
yeah,
thought it was, go ahead, please. Clear your thought. Yeah.
no, but yeah, no, that's kind of what it is like in the algorithm era, is like, you just want to figure out, um, whether things are like they've actually taken hold or not. And then it's like, how do I get it there?
Yeah.
Or, or is this better off with somebody else that's like, can
Yeah.
speak to those fans, or, um, especially since, we work within a scope of the genres of the bands, of, the
Do you think,
style.
yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you think that there's more, that this has led to more high quality bands that are worthwhile? Yeah. When I say worthwhile, that can, like, bring the crowd that they need, that they need to justify, a decent club show.
What do you mean by, you mean like in terms of like
Yeah,
the,
is there just more? Is there more bands as a result? Because, like, has it helped generally, like, helped raise? Is it has it like raised the tide? Like, when I was booking, it was like relatively, it was relatively hard. I'm about 10 years behind you. It was relatively hard to really land on a band that's worthwhile booking at a 600 cap room or an 800 cap room or a 1200 cap room. And yeah, I did it for about 5 years, and I can't say that I personally saw it get easier in the last 5 years. But I'm just wondering, like, with how easy it is to get out on social media, has it led to more people being like, oh yeah, I will go check out that band that I'm listening on Spotify, and as a result, like, yeah, is the number of bands that are like, do you sense that, like, the number of bands that are worthwhile to book are going up? Yeah, just to put some context to it. Yeah,
yeah, totally. I think for sure. No, I think that like now you have the ability to become an overnight success, which I'm remembering a conversation that we had. It's like
yeah,
you have
yeah,
to really become an overnight success, but you also like need to retain it. So like
yeah,
have
yeah.
pop isn't necessarily like what's gonna make your career. It's
That's so interesting to think about. Yeah. So you've seen bands like, they get that social media hit, they play amazing, whatever, 1,000 people, then you book them again, and like the well has dried. It's like 10 people or something.
I've seen it happen, but I've also seen it, we've seen like Chapell Roan, like, with the
For
craziest,
real. Yeah. No kidding.
well, yeah, the most insane thing about that show is that you could pull the Prism report on this tour from a Parish show. Like, she played the same record twice, like on the same tour, pretty much. Parish, 400 cap, ACL headliner.
On the
Yeah,
same tour,
same tour.
Parish ACL cap to, or sorry, Parish 400 capacity venue. It's a headlining ACL.
Yeah. Which is insane, right? Like, that happens. But
And
that,
and when the show played off at, obviously when you booked it, it was a sense that that was the right size room from. By the time it played off, was it was it kind of like, was she busting out of that venue, or was it still kind of the right venue to have for her?
I don't know, like, I don't know who exactly, but I think it may have been either Andrew or Chase, but like, they I think, I'm not sure if it necessarily like sold out. Like, I think it got,
Oh my God. Wow. So this is
I'm,
like 9 months apart, basically.
it's like, it's like things
They
can happen.
didn't, she didn't sell out Mohawk. That's wild. I'm sorry, Parish, excuse me.
Yeah, no, she wasn't like, it wasn't it wasn't even a Mohawk show yet. So it was like, so it's like, and that's the crazy thing about that, is that, things like that have happened, I mean, so The Dare is a really great example too. Exceptional show, by the way, like really good DJ set that we had during Levitation. But I mean, he had a record coming out that was like, you know, kind of an instant Pitchfork favorite, and also like had like, um, uh, collaborated with Charlie XCX, and like there were all, there's like a combination of factors that were very helpful to him becoming more and more prominent. But like it happened like during the on sale cycle for this DJ set. So it just sold out like very quickly. Like, like for a minute it was like selling pretty steady, and then all of a sudden it was like the hype like got really real, and people were just like, buy
How
your.
exciting. Yeah.
So things like that happen, and it's like,
Are these the moments you live for, by the way, in doing this? Is like not live for, but like that's gotta feel like a drug when that happens.
oh yeah. I mean, it's like you're
Like I caught a big fish, you know?
I did something that mattered to people. Like, this is like, I'm not just like booking bands, like, because I feel like because I'm a fan of music,
Mm.
I'm booking bands that people are going to come out and see. So yeah, I mean, with Julie, it was the same thing. Andrew worked really hard on the Dare too. I always want to like make sure that I would never take credit for someone else booking a show, but like,
Of course, yeah.
but like, with Julie is like when we were working on it, Rob Graham and I, we were like, it was like they had a record coming out, and we knew it was going to be like something really strong, but the record comes out and people go crazy. Like it's such a good feeling to know that like, this is, people are going to come out to the show. They're going to have a lot of fun because this is happening like right now. And we had a hand in supporting it. So yeah,
Mm.
so I feel like it's a big, like, yeah, it's like whenever that happens, and it happens during an on sale cycle, and you feel like really fulfilled because you're like, we made the right call. It's like,
Hmm.
this was something that we've trusted our gut on, and it worked out.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting, man. We just like jumped in to talk about talking about like getting in the weeds of levitation and all that. I like usually start these with like going deep into the story, which I didn't do this time around. Just, there's no rules, whatever. But I think it's worthwhile just sharing where you come from and how did you get into all this. And yeah, it sounds like you were a fan of levitation at some point. But yeah, let's hear your go back as far as you care to go back. Yeah.
Well, my parents met, no, but I don't know. I gotta start. But I grew up in Cairo, Egypt, and I moved to, my mom's American, my dad's Egyptian. I started school at UT Austin when I was 18. So I moved to Austin when I was 18.
Was there at all a live music scene in Cairo?
Not like this, but
Yeah, yeah. Were you exposed to the music of that part of the world, or yeah?
yeah, I mean, like, it was like, I was definitely like listening to a lot of rock music for sure. Like, I learned to play guitar when I was 14. I was listening to a lot of Hendrix and a lot of Pink Floyd. And like, that's, kind of what it
Oh, yeah.
was like. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, psychedelic music, it's like, it was like kind of already there in a lot of ways, a lot of The Cure and stuff. Like, it was like, and then eventually, like when I moved, the biggest thing that happened was like college radio, which I
Oh.
support my college radio station like tooth and nail, like, anything that these days, like, it's like Tweeties is like right here. So all like, like whenever, if they ever need help with anything, like I still like, I set up a lot of like the like systems. So I was like talking to them about like, hey, if you guys need my help, let me know. Like, I'm happy to like figure out what I fucked up. Like, oh, sorry.
You can swear.
I messed up like 3 years ago, and try to fix it with you guys because I don't want to, we kind of like, but yeah, I mean, it was a college radio, it was like, that was the biggest
Yeah.
thing. Like, it was a community, it was a organization that we were like, it was like my first real like work, like I had jobs and stuff like as a student, but like, it was like, I was like, this is a project, like I can really like learn from this. And I was just so diehard of that. I was like, no, I was like, seriously, it's like as diehard as I've gotten about anything else that I care about. But I was, and eventually, like, I had a this moment where I was sort of becoming aware of what levitation was, like back in like 2019. Like I had, been aware of the festival for a little bit, but like this was like really when I started to, it was like 3 a.m. It was the only open DJ slot. And I would go play like heavy psych. And I still have all those playlists on Spotify. But then I eventually like, learned about so many, I was listening to like Earthless and Sleep and, Ohm and like all kinds of, Electric Wizard and stuff. And like it was all like this heavy psych stuff, like all the Sabbath centric music. And that's kind of what started it. I was like, okay, this is the coolest festival because it's like, they're booking everything that I care about and more. Like it was like genres that I wasn't necessarily aware of just yet, or like I hadn't necessarily like immersed myself in them. But I became, I really like, Boy Harsher was like one of the biggest, like for me, it was like, I'm going to listen to Boy Harsher pretty like religiously, see that show because I really like, I, this resonates with me. Like, or at the time I was like, this is for me. Like, this is for people like, so it was like, as a 20-year-old, like that's very formative in a lot.
Mhm.
Like, especially because you're able to like just go out to these shows. Like you're not a kid anymore, I could.
Right.
It was the same with Kikagaku Moyo, and it was the same with
Oh yeah, that's great.
yeah, and I was so
So when did
thankful.
you start? When did you start putting on shows then?
Right after, like we booked
Really?
our first show. Like this was like so post pandemic, um, post pandemic. It was like we remember the Delta wave. So like
Yes, I do now. I
so there was this moment where like everyone was like,
was like,
"Coco."
wait, is that a band? The Delta Wave?
It's like it feels like it was so long ago, but it really wasn't. It was like people were like, "It's over, right? Like you're good to go. Like go party, right?"
100%,
And,
especially in Texas.
and we did a show like a charity like fundraiser for Ham, and we did it at a co-op, you know, because that's like where you start. Like if you're gonna book a show in Austin, like you're either gonna book a house show or you're going to book a co-op, which is basically a big house show. And yeah, it was just insane. It was like, I was like, what is going on? Like, how are we, like, we knew enough of what we were doing because we were like in college radio and we had done all kinds of production and stuff like that. So we brought in a PA and we like,
Cool.
yeah, and we were recording a documentary at the same time. So this was like the kind of stuff that you would like come up with as like a 20-year-old, it's like just like out there. And you're like, I'm gonna do it, like whatever. And I
Yeah,
still have
yeah,
yeah, I still have like the footage from it. It's like this insane thing, like, just like all of these people that I know now, who I didn't know back then, are in this footage, like enjoying these bands, like from when we were like in our early
I
20s.
love that.
And like, it's just insane to see. Like it's like this like relic of a certain time. But it was also this very hopeful time because like pandemic was over, in that moment. So
Man,
yeah.
that's cool. I didn't realize you kind of just. I mean, you've come up pretty quickly from going to college, and then the pandemic hits, and you start booking shows right after the pandemic, and you good for you, man. Yeah, cheers. I know there's much more you want to accomplish, but it's you're doing some cool stuff. How did you how did it go from co-ops to was Hole in the Wall the first place you like were fully booking yourself or?
Yeah, and I wasn't even like fully booking Hole in the Wall for the first little bit. I was like, they were kind of looking for someone younger to bring in some of the some of the newer local bands that they weren't. So eventually it was just like a good scenario because I would go to a lot of shows there. And eventually, like whenever I could start working there, I started doing some of the social media stuff and I started like helping book support and whatnot. And then
Mhm.
eventually like I just kind of had the calendar. and,
Yeah.
and that's where I like honestly like started to, be able to put some like cool things together. I was like able to reach out to agencies for the first time, like on my own, and like
What was the for those that don't know, Hole in the Wall, it's what, two stages, maybe 300 cap, maybe between the two of them.
196
Ooh.
Yeah, no, I remember like that capacity card too. It was like 196 for both rooms, I think, was like, or like, yeah, it was 196 for the back room. Um,
Cool.
it's changed now because I don't know if you've been to Hole in the Wall recently, but
I have not.
well, after the grant, they like really remodeled a lot of it, and they're doing a really great job. Like Clayton is like the GM there now. It's like really cool. Like I'm just really excited for them to,
Cool.
yeah.
Cool. Interesting. So, at a booking 190 cap room, what was did you ever have these moments where I used to book small rooms, and there's like moments where it's a small room is even smaller because the number of people show up, right? But then obviously when those get packed out, it's really exciting. So what was some of your favorite stuff that you couldn't, that ended up being like epic that came through like that small of a room, and whether, a Chapell Roan situation where they blew up but like didn't pack out your place, or a moment where it's like, wow, we had to turn away twice as many people from. Did you have those moments at Hole in the Wall?
Totally. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first Dice Bits show that they ever played. I think they maybe had played like a house show or something before that, but like the first venue show that they ever played was at Hole in the Wall. And it was packed. It was like,
Are they from Austin? It
yeah,
was
yeah,
packed.
packed like right off the bat. Like we were doing this like magazine thing where we were like, you know, like my buddy who's working on this magazine at the time was like, "Hey, can you book some bands?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I kind of book a venue now. Uh, we're doing it." And it was like, and yeah, I mean, it was like Dice Bits' first show. It was extremely memorable. And then from there on out, like we kept doing that. Like, every Dice Bits show that we did at Hole in the Wall was like absolutely insane. Like, and that is some of the most memorable stuff because like they recently ended up playing to like a sold out crowd at Mohawk during
Mm,
Levitation. So that was an immensely like, gratifying moment for me. Like, because
mhm.
like, they're my friends and their agent, Zach and Sam, like they were two of the
From
two
where? From where?
from High Road, two of the first agents to like take me seriously as like as a younger, as someone who was new to the business, and it really made a difference because I was like, I'm doing it, like, so
Mhm.
when Zach signed them, it was like a very exciting moment because I was like, yes, like like good people I know are working together, and yeah, it was really great, like, just like seeing that band grow and up to like this weekend.
Yeah, that's a great completion for sure. I'd love
Totally.
that.
We're only
And
getting,
hopefully not and then hopefully they blow out the 6,000 cap, when you're over there.
yeah, I mean, it's only up from here, and I'm so happy that like, you know, I've seen that and that we have the resources to go all the way up, So,
Hmm.
I'd be excited to do their first arena show in Austin,
Yes,
Um,
that's LFG. Let's go.
but yeah, there's a few other moments like that, and thankfully, like, one of the reasons why I was so like grateful for this weekend is because, Dice Spits was one story of like a few where,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah, and it was like, Sad Cell was like the first band I ever booked at like a venue, and they played with Slowdive, and
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
there were like little moments. Like Glare was like the first like real Resound, like it was the first Resound show that happened in Hole in the Wall, and
Hmm.
also played with Slowdive, and they've been growing immensely over the last like 3 years. I used to play I used to stream their music on my like college radio state, like on my college radio show, So like, it's really cool to see it, It makes me,
And yeah, dude, that's amazing. I love that completion. I would be I would be mad at myself if I didn't also kind of bring up how we know each other, which is via Prism when you're at Hole in the Wall, and you use it over at Resound now as well. And if I could just do a shameless plug, like how's been your experience with Prism so far? And yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's been with me since like every step of my career. Cause like we got Prism at home. And then when I applied for my internship at Resound like a couple of years ago, I was like, I know how to use Prism, guys.
Yes.
which is like so funny. Like, I like I was doing my interview with Andrew and I was like, I know how to use Prism. And he was tired, it was like,
Yes, that's it. That's all you had to say. That's what I like to hear.
no, but it's like a great tool. Like, jokes aside, no, not really a joke, but like it's a great tool. And like, it's just as important that to your day-to-day operations than anything else, that it actually is like a plus. Like knowing Prism was a plus for me already going in, which is great. Like I think that it's made, I quite literally use it every day. So it's like that and I feel like I've also used it. The unique thing I think is like I've used it on every scale, like whether I was doing whether I'm doing a festival now or I'm doing a 200 cap room. It was with me the whole way, and
I love that.
like I think you guys built something really great, and it's funny because like I mean also
Thank
like
you.
and multiple stages like Resound having multiple rooms. We use Prism for everything. Um, so that's kind of like I feel like I've seen it work at every level, so I can always vouch for it, personally. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I mean, if you're running a 200 cap space, think about it because
I appreciate it, man. You've always definitely been one of the people that like get what we're doing and use it in a really interesting way with levitation, and it's been awesome to get to know you too. But yeah, I was curious to hear how you got involved with Resound, and that's you just applied for an internship, huh? That's it.
my friend actually who works at 10 Atoms now, Riley, they were the one to really like push for me to but we also worked at Hole in the Wall together.
Yeah.
So it was all like,
How did you go from interning to being a part of levitation?
I just worked and worked.
That's it.
I mean, I already kind of knew, like the moment that there was an in, like, the moment that they needed anything on the festival, I was like, throw me in, coach. And like,
Yeah, just helping wherever you could, or yeah.
I mean, I did a lot on levitation, like, I mean, 2.5 years ago, like when I first got started, I was like doing a lot on the festival that was like, a lot of the smaller stuff that I could help with that was going to take something off of someone else's like plate. And it eventually, like, I think Graham like recognized that I like cared, and so did Rob. And it was very, I mean, they now like, I can't believe like, they really do trust me to produce the festival with them and like book it with them and stuff. And I'm like, it's crazy because it's like been just talking about it. It's like,
It's surreal. I love
yeah.
it.
So 2 years ago, I'm like, I'm booking like the front stage at Hole in the Wall, which is
Yeah.
potentially even harder than what I'm doing now.
Well, man, look at the industry you're in. Like your point, Chapell Roan, right? For going on one tour, going from not selling out the Parish to headline. That's the magic of it, you know? Yeah.
So it's been great. Like it really has been a wonderful experience, and you know, it means a lot to a lot of people. The bands, the agents, the folks that work at the venues, like, everybody who's like seeing this happen is very happy to see it because
Yep.
like made a lot of friends, over the last like 3 years, and
Mm.
seeing it all grow together is like it's like wonderful. It's like it's so like gratifying.
Well, I'm glad to be one of them, if I may qualify myself as a friend.
Anytime.
What's your let's end with like a big question. Like what's your personal plans for the future, and what do you want to where do you want to see the industry go in the future?
The industry in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Big old question. Yeah. Live music industry. Yeah. Yeah. And psych inside of it. Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm happy to see that there's more outlets for independent music when it comes to like, the internet age, the algorithm age, whatever it may be. Like, I'm excited to see more people talk about, the bands that are really doing something innovative, that are really like putting, something great forward. And I think we're getting more of that. You're having more curators like across the board. You're having like people be able to like really connect with what they want to see. So I think there's something to be hopeful about, because I know a lot of people like get super like doomery about like, oh, well, algorithms or anything, but algorithms are only going to show you what you want to see. So if you're looking for the good stuff, you're going to find it. I'm thankful.
This isn't good stuff. You're gonna find it. I like that.
This isn't like some brazen like algorithm support argument either. Like it's not
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't see it as that.
No, but for the record, I'm just trying to put it out there. It's like it's more like, there's a lot of people who are talking about bands in a way that's refreshing, in a way that's like, influencers, if you will, but I don't think they would even call themselves that. And people who are like really platforming the right stuff. And I think that, if you're looking for that, you're going to find it. Ignore the noise for a little bit, just engage with the right stuff. So I'm excited for that. Like for the industry in general, I'm
Me
excited.
too. Yeah, cool answer.
Thank you.
What about for yourself? You got a master plan, or I feel like you either have a master plan, or you're the type of person that's like, today is my master plan. Yeah,
I
and
think
that's not a diss either. That would be a compliment. Yeah, you're a very present minded human, and I like that. Yeah.
Um, I'm just excited to see this next step of like, and taking it one step at a time because like, I've had to like you couldn't really plan for something like this to happen in like 3 years, I think. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for us to make this next shift in. I'm excited for the new bands that are going to come up, and I'm excited for the bands that we've been working with, and like the bands that we want to work with. Like all of that to me is like what makes this worth it. Is like
I love that, dude. You're in it. You're in it for the freaking. You're in it for the live music. It's like, I hate to get all whatever.
I would wear a I love live music shirt if it weren't like people would it's like in a post ironic kind of way people would think I'm kind of making it like, I mean it. I love live music. What can I
I
say?
love that, dude. Yeah, I love that. Um, what about Psych Fest Cairo? Any chance at that?
Yeah, I mean maybe. I don't know.
By the pyramids?
Feel like
Do a remaking of a pyramid stage? Wouldn't that be something?
we booked the Scorpions at the pyramids when they
Oh,
like in the 90s. Yeah, I mean it'd
the
be
Grateful Dead played the pyramids, man. Different era, I guess. But yeah, I'd love to. Hey, I feel like live music is a conduit for world peace. I really do. I feel like where there's like thriving live music, there's like potential for peace. You know?
totally. I think that if like it's just a reflection of being open to ideas, If you're like
Oh
I mean, sorry, not to get too deep about it, but
no,
like,
I love that. I love that.
it's like, I think it's like the more and more you're able to accept cultural and musical sonic diversity, like that just shows that you're in a healthy culture. Like shows,
That's really, really well put, man. Really well put.
uh,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
uh,
Well, dude, I mean, it's been a good one. I think that's probably a remarkable quote to end on, and thank you for jumping on. And yeah, congrats on a successful fest. Best of luck with this new format next year. I'll be there 100%. I'm super curious to see who you all book, and even on this call, I wrote down like 10 people who I want to go check out. So I definitely didn't know everyone you were talking about, but I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole right after this.
I wish you the best of luck in there. A lot of
Maybe I'll find you in there scurrying around.
they seem like taking notes on like wait, how many streams do they have right now? No, we can work on that. We can work with that.
All right, man. Thank you. Al, you and I had our podcast actually a couple months ago, a month and a half ago or whatever, and I was about to get it live, and you let me know that the lineup for Levitation was about to drop, and were kind enough to give me a sneak peek, and the lineup was just so unbelievable that I was like, oh, we can't release this pod without talking about it. So a couple that stood out to me that I just want to call out. First off, a lot of Austin love. Alex Moss, Octopus Project, Explosions in the Sky. I don't know if I guess that's a desert. Like I think there are Austin claims Explosion in the Sky, right?
That's an Austin band. That's a properly Austin band in
Cool.
my estimation. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy Wave. Is Yolo Tanga Austin too? They're not
No, they're
Austin.
from New Jersey.
Okay, fair enough. And then outside of Austin, um, it's just like totally insane. Just the ones that again stand out: Starfucker, um, Dinosaur Jr., Yolo Tanga. Um, really, really incredible lineup. Yeah, like who are you all excited about, and why don't you give us like the full breakdown of who's all playing? Yeah,
I mean, like truly, truly, like all of the above. And also
yeah,
like The whole lineup is like, you know, Rob Graham and I have been working on this for probably the last year. So like seeing it all come together is like super exciting. I feel like it's like three distinct days and they're all like psychedelic in their own ways. They kind of like represent all our favorite subgenres and kind of sensibilities in psych. So we're stoked on it. But for me, I mean, Los Mirlos playing Texas. I think for the first time here is like that's to me is like I'm super psyched. Like I mean, you're talking about a band that inspired every like chicha, like Peruvian cumbia
Mm,
thing that came after. And
incredible.
there's such a big scene for that in Austin, you know, and it's like, and that's where it comes from. Like they're still doing it and they're doing it well, and it's like that KEXP session that they did is like incredible. So I'm really glad that we're gonna be able to host. Um, but yeah, I mean, you got Yo Tango and Dinosaur Jr. You know playing together. That's and Dean Wareham plays Galaxy 500. So that's like
Cool.
yeah, that's like three right there that are just like you know, in terms of how they fit together, I'm super excited for. And yeah, I mean, the whole, you know, I feel like cohesion here is like achieved in terms of like, you know, the everyday standalone kind of working up to like the headliner in the same like DNA. So yeah, I mean, we're stoked.
I love
Like,
that. So you thought about it in that way, like every night it kind of climaxes with the headliner and builds up to it, and they're all kind of related. So let's look at Saturday. Can I just read it off? Is that cool?
oh, yeah, go for it.
Corridor, Jordy,
That's
Dummy.
that's Jordy Griep. Yeah, I should have put the whole name in there, but
Cool, cool. I don't know all these, frankly. So that's obviously being revealed here. Starfucker, Dummy, Sasami. One that's tentative that I won't say. I can't say that one right
oh,
yet.
that's confirmed. So
Kim,
we're
all right, Kim Gordon, word.
good. Yeah.
And then Wombo, and then climaxing with Dark Side. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of out of order on that list, but yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so yeah, what's the headliner that night?
so it's a triple headliner situation. So you have like, you know, Darkside, Kim Gordon, and Starfucker.
Rad,
Um,
rad.
but
Makes
yeah, no,
sense.
we're super stoked on that. That one is like, you know, Jordy Griep, well, you know, he recently started this solo project that, you know, they put out a really great record last year. And this is their first time playing this project in Austin. And it's like the first like US tour on this project, but like he was part of Black Midi before that. So since Black Midi isn't really active anymore, yeah, it's it just like came out, you know, guns blazing, crazy record, and yeah, I mean, super stoked on that. So it's yeah, and really you're starting off with both Corridor and Dummy, both like put out exceptional records. Not like I mean within the last year, so like they're both like if you
2024 drops.
yeah, 2024.
Cool.
They're both like incredible. I don't know if Dummy was 2024. I think they were. But like there's a lot going on with both stylistically, like, you know, very tasteful blends of you know, different styles and genres. And it's like it's very cool to like kind of see that come together because like I feel like that's what all of these artists are doing on Saturdays. Like you get a lot going on here. So yeah, so like
What's your
yeah,
favorite day?
my favorite day, I can't say honestly because
Yeah,
like I mean
yeah.
all of these is like, you know, these are all like it's almost like these are like my favorite bands within the respective genres, you know. So
Uh,
it's so cool to see that like in 3 days we're just getting the whole experience here.
let's talk about the creative process a little bit. So you got, I'm just eyeballing it. Let's call it 30 bands or whatever. Um, were these like did you start with, all right, here are the 30 most ideal, and how many of the 30, if you did start that way, how many landed? And and yeah, what was your process of like, or was it different? Was it like the agents that are booking these bands were preemptively kind of telling you who was available that you had relationships with? Like, how did this lineup come together? Yeah.
It was a mix of things. I think like some conversations were already being had like from previous festivals, things that didn't like work out a little while ago for whatever reason. So like those were things that were conversations to be picked up, and we were, you know, wanted to, get, kind of make those happen. So that was kind of the basis, is like we had those like penciled in as like we want these artists. So and then yeah, we got like through our, like a lot of the agents that we were talking to, and they're all like very great to work with. It's like almost like it suggests a certain shape of a bill, and once we get the submissions in, once we like kind of sift through the whole like stack of like what we get, we're like, all right, like what's cohesive here, like what are we excited about, and how can we build up to those headliners. Obviously you have to lock in the headliner first, which can be a challenge sometimes, because it's
So you lock in headliners first, though. Typically, are you trying
I,
to every night?
ideally, yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Gotcha.
it's not always that way, but ideally you're trying to lock in your headliners first. So yeah, I mean, that's usually how we go about it, because it's a pretty boutique scenario here. So you have to kind of ensure that you have that locked in, and then that you're able to build up to the headliner with something that's cohesive, that people would be, um, just all the way through. It maintains a flow that makes sense, and that people would be engaged. Because
Rad.
I mean, also the thing is like, and I very firmly believe in this, is like it's more like we're playing the game of like curating the bill to where, yeah, some of these acts like are developing, and it's good for them to be on a bill with some of these bigger names, and we want to bridge those gaps. Like that's always the fun thing to see, is, oh, you are playing with one of like your legends, and you actually have a chance to for them to see your music, and that might later down the line create all kinds of relationships and like touring plans and stuff like that. And that's what you want to see. Like I think that that's like what makes this whole situation, um like it just makes it very, it's like a very grateful situation on like everyone's end.
Yeah,
um
absolutely. So Alex Moss and not the Black Angels, right? Is this the first Levitation Black Angels hasn't played?
it's the first Psych Fest, but yeah, it's Black Angels like just played Levitation, so it's like kind of taking a break on it this time around. But obviously there's plans for the future on every in every aspect, but like this time around it's Alex's band. So yeah, yeah, it's going to be exciting to see him do his project, and we'll have the Black Angels will be back soon. I can assure
Yeah,
you
yeah,
that.
yeah. 100%. What's the date again? So I got it right.
We're
Or
in
dates, better yet.
April. Yeah, April 25th through 27th.
Cool, cool. And
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But we also have a kickoff show that
and this is far out, right?
yeah, so it's all far out.
Cool.
And it's lighter than Levitation, like last time. I guess like this is after the podcast that we talked about the things shifting and whatnot. But it's going to be a little bit lighter than, being we're going to have after shows at 13th floor.
Yeah.
Currently working stuff in there. Cadaver's going to do an after show. They're on the festival proper too. And we have another after show locked in with Levitation Room and Los Blenders, and we have a kickoff show, at Trondelaire, which I think we've talked about it. Have we talked about it, Trondelaire, before?
No? Mm-mm.
They're like a desert, like rock desert blues band. But yeah, they're amazing. And they're from Niger, but they rock so hard. Like I mean, I saw them. They played Austin like a couple of times in the last couple of years, but they also like played Goner Fest, and it was like the standout performance. Like everybody was like, "What's going on?" Like these guys are just like, it's insane. Like the fact that they come all the way like over there to just like blow minds here.
Excuse me. Man, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, this is this is the second year you've brought back Psych Fest, right? Or second or third year?
This is the third
Separate
year.
from Levitation. This seems like a little bit bigger bands than you've gone with Psych Fest before, or is it about is it similar? Like just like looking at it, I'm not sure I saw so many like kind of name brand headliners at the last Psych Fest. Like I'm pretty impressed, man. Yeah.
I think we've had, I definitely think we've had like some pretty name brand headliners in the last two for sure. I think it's like consistent with where we've been like moving direction wise.
Cool, cool.
But I think like this year it's just like kind of more. It's it's more like distinct in the genres. Like as I've been saying, it's like it builds
Yeah.
up genre, builds up, and it's like it's cool because I feel like you're getting like a slightly different, like it's like not your typical psych fest in a certain way, but like there's undertones of it every, like
Yeah. Yeah,
as
it's interesting. Like with Starfucker, for instance, like, in our other conversation, I was really cool to hear about your distinction between, Levitation is at its roots, it is Psych Fest. It did evolve from Psych Fest, but it's a brand that lets you kind of have like a longer anchor, if you will, and more mobility. And this is just my judgment or whatever, but I was like, oh, Psych Fest, like that feels like, or sorry, Starfucker feels like in my mind maybe like a little bit closer to Levitation. So it feels like you like kind of expanded a little bit with Psych Fest. Obviously, like it's clear what you're going for, but I don't know. You might, and frankly, like I haven't listened to any of Starfucker's like recent stuff. I was like hooked in their like 2014 2015 season, but it does seem like, yeah, this that you did some exploring with this lineup.
Yeah, I think it's like, it does sort of, it speaks to like what the it speaks to like what the brand in terms of like offering a variety of like different kind of takes on psychedelic music in this
Hmm.
scenario. And it's like I feel like if you were to look at Sunday, like you see, like you can kind of pick out like where those moments are. So you have Los Milos, you have like
I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Yola Luz, and obviously like Yola Tango, and Dinosaur Jr., like both having like, the type of influence that they've had, like, in general, like not to, not to like pigeonhole them in like any kind of genre or another, but then, yeah, I mean, you can see it also like on Saturday and Sunday. Those moments like are there. And yeah, I mean, like it's all like, to me, it's weird because like to me it's like it makes so much sense in the way that
Yeah.
like look at it, but I don't know if it's um like it's like who's like it's like what's gonna like stand out with the individual person that's like gonna look at this and be like, yeah, I want to do this because of these bands. I'm excited to see how people like the feedback for it too.
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, it's again, like you're saying, like the Austin love of it too is like that's the big one here, because it's like, you got like with Octopus Project, with Holy Wave, you have like these like
Hmm.
seven Austin psych bands, and
Yeah.
and and
I
they're
can't
all,
wait for this. This lineup's great. Yeah.
we're super stoked for that. Like that's like it's all in there and it's all like really good. So
Man,
yeah,
do you have with a brand like Psych Fest and like Levitation, and obviously this is, booking for Psych Fest versus Levitation, do you just have like a floodgate of like every psychedelic rock band out there in the country like hitting y'all up, and like how do you deal with that, and like are you able to book some bands that you don't know from folks that are coming your way, or is it 100% like you're the ones doing the show, you're curating, like you don't get tapped unless the Psych Fest folks tap you, or like, yeah, what's the balance between those two things?
I think it's like an even mix. It's like,
Cool.
there's like, yeah, I mean, it's like it's a little bit of everything, right? Because it's like it's not these they don't never like these things aren't like booked in a formula. It's all like, uh, some someone can like randomly email Graham, or me, or and just be like, hey, what's up? Like, want to pitch this, and then we'll
And you
all
just
like,
get obsessed with it and you're like, fuck yeah, let's go.
yeah. And sometimes it's like it's like, oh, who are these guys? But like, this is cool, like, so it's like it's a mix of like that versus
Mix
like
of art and science and fair amount art, I guess is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
balancing act. It's like the tightrope balancing act between two skyscrapers. So, we try, and that's like the whole thing is like you get I think but it's also like, a lot of these are returning acts. So like a lot of these have like, history in Psych Fest or Levitation. So it's just cool to see that that's been continuing to happen. People want to come back and play the festival. Like, we usually get like really, really good feedback from people are always excited to come back. So, and it's always good to see people, be like reminisce over their last Levitation or Psych Fest and be like excited that they're playing again. That's always like, it's awesome to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait. All right. Let's wrap with a couple like hot seat, like Oscar awards. Okay.
Yeah.
On the lineup, the most listened by you on Spotify.
Uh, probably Yola Tango actually.
Yellow
In
Tango. Okay. Okay.
and Godspeed for sure.
Okay. Yellow Tango Godspeed. Okay. Uh, on the lineup, it's all going to be on the lineup, so I'll stop caveating that.
Yeah.
Uh, best up and coming band.
I'm super, super stoked about Jordy's like next step here because,
Mm.
Black Midi was killing it, like, and he's killing it too. So it's like he only has one record out and it's like crushing. It's like, people are going crazy about it. So I'm super stoked to see like the future for him.
Most innovative of their approach to psych.
All of them. I mean,
Pick
I mean,
one. Pick one.
uh, I would say like, Octopus Project is
Cool.
is my eternal underdog in Austin music, because they are like, that band is insane. Like I listened to a KVRX. I know it's like a quick question, but like I listened to a KVRX like in studio recorded session from them like back in like the early 2000s, and they were playing the record before it was out. So they're playing it live before it was out. I was like, what? I was like, it's crazy that they were doing like they've been making good music forever. And it's like, they're legends in Austin. So yeah, I love them.
Most likely to be in a Hans Zimmer film.
Godspeed, probably. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
I,
Okay.
I I have a note on this because the Friday is like super cinematic in
No,
general.
oh, that's my okay. Friday's my night then. Good to
Yeah.
know. um, most likely to rival Dark Side of the Moon.
Concept albums, huh? Um,
Like in most in genre, most in step with Dark Side of the Moon. Let's go with that. Yeah.
I would say, probably, that's a tough one, actually. I don't know what angle to respond to on that one. So,
You could be a couple.
I'm gonna say maybe Yola Tango because they,
Whoa.
yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, the reason why is because they're so versatile. Like,
Yeah.
I think when you're talking, if I understand the question correctly, I guess it's like you're talking about a band that can put together something cohesive. I keep using that word, something very put together, and like thematically. And I think that there's a few on this lineup that can do that very well. Besides them, I mean, I feel like.
Let me ask another question that's like in the same spirit. Okay,
Mhm.
so I go to Spotify, I type in Shine On Crazy Diamond.
What
What
shows up?
what shows up in the Levitation lineup? Like it. Not a song, but a band. Like what bands
I
go
hear
on
you.
that genre? Yeah.
I feel like it would probably be somewhere between like Lil U's and Holy Wave, like
Oh
somewhere
yeah,
around.
Holy Way for sure. Okay. Now you just gave me some homework on Spotify. All right, cool. Well, we had to do this add-on, and I think this is a good place to wrap it. But that was a fun little popcorn. But yeah, so thank you for jumping on, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
When's
I'm s-
Levitation lineup dropping?
we still I think it's gonna so I think we're probably gonna try to go up in like early summer-ish. Still kind of
Cool.
like still kind of feeling it out, but
Let's do
you'll
another one then.
you'll know
What's that?
you'll know as soon as I know.
Okay. I can't wait. Can't wait. Well, minimally, I'll see you at Psych Fest in April. April what? At Far Out?
So yeah, 25th through 27th at Far Out, and the
Okay.
day before we're doing our kickoff show at Hotel Vegas, and after shows.
Rad. Rad.
Yes, Sunday night at 13th floor. What a time every time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That'll be fun. All right. Well, we'll see you there. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Wasting hours